Hey everyone, and welcome back to yet another video of the countering series. My name is Zesty, and in today's video we're going to be going over one of DBD's fastest killers, the Blight. Well, let's get started. The Blight, aka Pinball Man, is the fastest killer in DBD, just next to Hillbilly. Boasting an incredible 9.2 meters per second base speed when rushing, it can often feel difficult when trying to dodge or counter his power in general. Blight's terror radius is also quite unpredictable, as it's got a very different tone to other terror radius in the game. It's almost similar to Death Slinger's, so it can be hard to pinpoint his exact location when he is approaching, making it for an easy hit on the killer's end. So in this video, I'll be going over 5 tips to help you fight against the Blight as a survivor. Let's get this started. Tip number 1. Blight is still limited to the in-game environment. Unlike Nurse, the Blight, when using his power, is limited to the in-game environment around him. You can use this to your advantage when in a chase. Try and loot Blight in claustrophobic areas, for example jungle gyms. This way, he will have a much harder time at using his power to catch up to you. And most of the time what will happen is Blight will be forced to stay as an M1 killer, meaning you've just denied him of his entire kit. Moving on to tip number 2, you are going to want to be doing last second jukes against the Blight. This, for example, could be things like going around corners quickly, 360ing, etc., as the Blight is very limited to his turning when he's rushing. Unless the Blight is on PC and he's doing J-flicks, for example, you should be able to counter the Blight by using this tip. This is especially good on maps that have lots of trees, as you can go around them very quickly and deny him of his entire power, making him go into his fatigue and then having to be an M1 killer for the next probably about 10 seconds, I'd say. So that's for tip number 2. Moving on to tip number 3, you're going to want to be keeping an eye on how many rush tokens Blight has used. So by doing this, essentially you're counting how many parts of his power he's used, and this will show you how long you've got roughly to be able to get to the next loop. So for example, Blight would catch you off guard in a dead zone, and if he's used 2 or 3 of his rushes, you now know that you have about 5, possibly, it doesn't really matter how many seconds, it's about 5 to 10 seconds roughly that you have now to get to the next loop without getting caught by him with his power. So you can use this to your advantage by letting him being in fatigue and then having to make him come to get you with 115% movement speed. So that's for tip number 3, everyone. Also guys, don't forget, if you enjoy my content, don't forget to like and subscribe, as it's free and it helps support me and helps me grow my channel, so thank you. The icon's in the bottom right. Moving on to tip number 4 guys, you're going to want to be using line of sight blockers against the Blight. This tip is great when you're in an open area against the Blight. Just like Nurse, you can move behind obstructions continuously to confuse the Blight and make him think you went one way but you went the other. This works very well with trees. So you'll find when you're going against the Blight will break the pallet with his rush, and then you'll be caught in an open area because of how quick it was to break the pallet. So with this tip, you're essentially making a little barrier between you and the Blight that will help you fight off against him in future games. So that's for tip number 4. Moving on to the final tip of our list guys, tip number 5, you're going to want to be hiding in small corners of loops when he starts his rush. So when you're going against the Blight, just like Hillbilly's chainsaw, you're going to want to be hiding in the small corners of the loops, for example on jungle gyms and on any other loop that has a small corner in them. This is so that Blight has to flick his camera very quickly to be able to hit you, and most Blights aren't very experienced, and when this happens they will miss the hit and then they'll be in the fatigue and you can make it to the pallet to drop it. So this is a very good tip if you're fighting against not so good Blights, but if you're fighting against a J-flicking, rank 1, hardcore 5000 hour Blight, you might find this tip is not very useful, but for the general Blight player that you're finding it's hard to go against, this should work very well against them, as it kind of does with Hillbilly too. So that's tip number 5 guys. Well, we finally made it to the end of another countering guide guys. I'm so happy for the amount of support that's been going on my channel recently. We've just recently reached 35 subscribers within about a week of my channel being active, and I can't thank you all enough for the support. All of the comments have been so lovely, and I can't wait to show you what I've made next. Thank you for watching guys, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video, and yeah, I'll be seeing you in the next one. Bye guys.